Welcome everybody to our live stream of our open discussion event. Today we are going to discuss the topic of how we perpetuate the belief that we are unworthy. And if you would like to find out how to uncover the root of that belief and break that cycle, we uncover the root of that belief and break that cycle. We uncover the root of that belief and break that cycle. We uncover the root of that belief. One second. Break that cycle. We uncover the root. Okay, let's try that again. Right, so the topic that we are going to discuss is how we perpetuate the belief that we are unworthy. And if you want to find out how to get to the root of that belief and uncover it, that is what we are going to discuss tonight, and wanting to break that cycle and address the root cause of that. So if you are here for the first time, then I would like to just mention that there is a chat panel available where you can leave comments, and also if you wanted to, I'll show you an example of that. You'll see a little drop down menu that says top chat, and there's the little smiley face where you can put reactions, and then right next to it is a icon with a dollar symbol on it, and if you select that, you are then able to support our Peace Evolution channel, and you are welcome to contribute to the channel through the messaging for super chats, or you can send us a super sticker. So Peace Evolution, we're a startup organization, and we have created this platform to share a message, which is the recipe for inner peace. And whenever you do a contribution, that would then be towards building this platform and also proliferating our message. So this unique recipe that we have for inner peace is something that you won't be able to find in any book out there, and probably not on any material on the internet unless it's coming from our platform. Now, that is quite a big statement to make, but you're welcome to leave a comment on that. So I'm going to introduce you now and bring on board Emmanuel, which is our founder of Peace Evolution. And he is going to take us through our topic tonight, how we perpetuate the belief that we are unworthy. So, welcome, Emmanuel.
Thank you, Linda, for the welcome and for the introduction. And I would like to immediately make a shout out to Marley Spencer for making a contribution already. Marley, thank you. Yep.
Thank you, Manly. Really
Yes, thank
appreciate
you.
it.
And then I'd like to add a little bit to what Linda said about peace evolution and about our message. Now, this is a serious statement that we are making, and it's very serious business. The whole thing about inner peace, and we want to do that with humanity. Very serious statement. However, we also, let's say in the last year, we managed to also bring a lightness to it so that it's not all heavy and dark and difficult. And we have also simplified the message. In my view, the message is simple, although probably 99.9% of what you're going to hear with Peace Evolution is not anything that you ever heard before or read about it. The dynamic is simple, but not necessarily simple to understand because it is such a way out message. Humans have been walking this planet for a long time. At the moment, there are roughly 7 to 8 billion people. And so we are presenting to all of humanity this possibility of evolving in a peace, and also that it starts with each individual, starts at the heart of the individual. So this is a huge task. I was asked to please live another 40 years so that I'm able to be part of the organization that we are creating. And the organization does not belong, even though I'm the founder, it does not belong to me. It belongs to humanity. And we have changed our business model, and we have adapted and adopted the mechanisms that it truly is a business or an organization for humanity. And with having said that, please feel free to ask any question. We'd like your questions, we'd like your comments, anything that you feel you want to raise with us, whether you agree with us or disagree. Please feel free to ask those questions in the chat, and we would love to respond to those and see what everybody thinks about this. Having said that, Linda, over to you just to show us the presentation spider. I'm going to call it the spider. I'm ready to bring the spider's information to everyone.
100%. Let me quickly share that. Right, there we go, Emmanuel.
Right, thank you. So, what I would like to bring to everybody's attention, and this is based on my personal findings. We spoke about this previously, where we coined the phrase the second choice self and the first choice self, and we've given various let me say, focus points on what a first choice self is about and what a second choice self is about. And then also the struggles we have. And now today, what we are going to cover is what the second choice self is up against. So this is now, I discovered that I was living a second choice self life. I also discovered a first choice self. And now I'm aspiring to live as a first choice self. And what we're going to cover now is what I'm up against, step for step, through a few focus points. Thank you, Linda. So show us the first. Okay. So there we are. We are in essence living a self-fulfilling prophecy. The second choice self that we created. The beauty of it is we create that for ourselves. And I'm working on the premise that there's a 1% chance, just because it is how it worked for me and what I discovered, that it might also be the same for anybody listening to what we are talking about here. Now, we are not able to help ourselves. Everything we do is about self-fulfilling the exact thing that we want to get away from. And in tonight's presentation, the idea is, could we shed any light of how we would be able to break that self-fulfilling prophecy? Okay, Linda, let's show us the next part. So also please have a look at that. The second choice self, which we abbreviate as SCS, is something we created. We don't know we created that. We're totally oblivious of that. However, that is what our life is about. We are not living to as ourselves, we are rather living to disprove that we exist as a second choice self. So this is an interesting dynamic. Fortunately, we created this dynamic, and therefore we are also the ones that are able to uncreate it. So as we see there, Linda mentioned or showed us, created from a figment of our imagination. So I just want to briefly reflect on what we mean there. Is so as we are growing up, and it doesn't matter which age we are at, it could be from a very young age, it could be any age, so age is not the thing. And what happens is, from our environment, from our parents, from our siblings, from school, from whatever we are exposed to, there is pressure on us. There's pressure to be like this, there's pressure to be like that. Everybody wants us to behave in a certain way. And of course, eventually, like the principle of the last straw that broke the camel's back, as the saying goes, at that nth straw, we then say, okay, there must be something wrong with us. And as a result of that very moment, we create the second choice self. And from that moment on, we disappear from our lives. And what remains there is our life that is constantly wanting to disprove that figment of our imagination. Now, fortunately, because we created, we could also uncreate it. So the second choice self was born by certain behavior that we felt, certain pressure that we felt, and we created the figment of our imagination, and as we refer to it here as the second choice self. Taking that a step further, you see there, we then only live to prove that we are worthy. So the statement is very strong there. You are living only to prove you are worthy. Now, please remember, you are worthy, but you think you are not, and therefore you want to prove that. And of course, we are then left behind. We ourselves are left behind in the sense of whatever our life would be is not there. We are living only to disprove to be worthy. Thank you, Linda. And of course, simplistically put, and this is oversimplifying it, is this is a survival mechanism. If we have this belief about ourselves, we want to disprove it, we want to prove that we are worthy as a survival mechanism. And of course, it's not possible because we are worthy. It's also a coping mechanism. So we get into situations every single day from when we get up, what we are going to wear, what we are going to do, going to work, be it online or be it physical, whatever we're going to do today, we are in this mode of wanting to prove instead of just being ourselves. And these are then survival and coping mechanisms, this wanting to prove worthiness. Now, I feel that as I unfolded in my life, one of the things that I realized was that I do not like treating symptoms, and a large part of my life existed in addressing the root cause. And because that root cause um, concept was so strong in me, I was able to solve in a conventional position, a conventional job. I was able to find the root cause of why things are not working out. And one thing led to another, and I then um, had the opportunity, and I was fortunate in getting work where it's about problems and problems and problems. And that was right up my alley. And the reason why I was able to solve it is because I don't like addressing symptoms. I rather address the root cause. And that's also how it came about that we recognize the second choice self and the first choice self. Now, wanting to disprove or living to prove worthiness is treating a symptom. And what we are able to do is we lock ourselves into that second choice self life. We self perpetuate by wanting to disprove, and we keep on feeding that figment of our imagination, and it locks us. And of course, what we want to do is not be locked in by that. We want to unfold as ourself the way we would prefer to live. Thank you, Linda. Now, that comes about, and the more we feed and perpetuate, automatically it is the lacking of self-confidence. Now, this is a weird phenomena if I say that a person who is very successful, extremely successful, let's say in a business venture, is wealthy, has got all the gimmicks, all the cars, all the bling, a trophy partner, and I'm using these words very, very loosely. Now, how am I able, what gives me the notion to say, but that person lacks confidence, that person lacks self-confidence, they have achieved so much. Okay, so let's look at that dynamic for a moment. So if they had confidence, they would have seen themselves and not want all the things they want and have and achieve to prove that they are somebody, that they are worthy, that they're not a failure. So it comes from the notion of, if I have the courage and I have the honesty to see myself, and not only the, surely to exclude me from my own life and running this fear of that I'm unworthy, as an example. And the unworthy that I'm talking about here is just an example. If that is the case, I can't have confidence. I am lacking the confidence to recognize me in my own life. Tricky dynamic, and we would get into this dynamic more and more as needed. Maybe some people see it, maybe some people don't see it, but we would, through the simplicity of our message, cover that until people see it wide-eyed, absolutely, undoubtedly. So that also implies that we don't have the courage to look. So if I say that because I've got this collection of cars, or because I've got this status job, or there are so many examples that we covered in a previous session where we spoke about crutches. So somewhere on the screen, we are going to show about our message of crutches. We would not need that if we had the courage. So there we are, there we are, there we are. And the long and the short of the story is, with us not having the courage to recognize, why do we feel that something is missing? As it says, the answers, or the answer to what is missing in your life. We covered that, and there we exemplify what happens and why we feel missing. Now, to treat the symptom, we then look for ways of proving certain things as opposed to just living. And that is about not having the courage to look. Thank you, Linda. And then there is the other side of it, about brutal honesty. In my own journey, I noticed that without courage and without being brutally honest, I could not see these things in my life. I would never have seen them. I would never have been able to see that I was living a second choice self-life. And of course, by being able to see that and having the courage and my liking of looking for the root cause of things, I was then also able to see the first choice self, and then manage to make the step change from the one to the other. Now, the talk tonight is about how we perpetuate our belief that we are unworthy. And the unworthy you could replace with, there's no space for me here, I failure, any of the things that come up in your own life, in my life, in anybody who has the courage and the honesty to look. So that is just a high level overview or focus of the second choice self and how we self fulfill that prophecy constantly. If we are able to see how we created it, if we are able to see that it's a figment of our imagination, we could stop it, but we don't look. Therefore, we're just taking the same prophecy and we are self-fulfilling it constantly. Okay, so that is that about this focus point. Linda, back to you.
Okay, so Emmanuel, thank you for sharing about the second choice self. And can you just reiterate again how we could recognize the second choice self in our own lives, in the sense of this belief that we sense that we're unworthy? Is it in the way that we make choices? Does it become apparent then? Perhaps we can look at an example of that.
Linda, thank you for that. Would you like to give me an example? Then let me work with that example.
Yes, why don't we take the example of choosing a career path or work life, or maybe being in a relationship, not wanting to be alone.
Okay, so those are two examples, but let me cover both. So let us just step back. And so first of all, thank you for those very for the question and those two very interesting examples. And somehow I'm going to conjure up a way of how we could see it. But let me just start with, if we don't have courage, we won't see it. If we don't have brutal honesty, we won't see it. It's just not possible. So the two ingredients that are utmost important is that we have courage and that we have the brutal honesty. Now, why I'm using such strong words there is this is really not for the faint-hearted. If you say, oh, but everybody lives like this, or if you say, but I've got to prove that I'm somebody. I take a job and I've got to prove in my job that that I'm capable of doing the work. But what I don't realize is that for me to do that job, to earn an income, to pay the bills is actually all it is. There's nothing more. So I go to a job, I need to earn some income, I need to pay the bills. But is that really the only thing that goes on in our minds when we take a job? Or is it about status? Is it about we have that, so now we are able to, let's say, buy a particular house or buy a particular car, or being able to impress somebody? So that's one of the things. And all of what I just mentioned, the status, the seeing it as more than just a way of paying bills, all of that is consequently wanting to prove. And that is a phenomenon that doesn't exist. There is just nothing like my life being about I need to prove anything. So if we're now in a relationship, this is a tough one. And this is a reality that is going to hurt? Am I in the relationship for what I get from my partner, whatever that might be? Or am I in that relationship to share my life with another person? Which is it? Is it that I need something from that partner in terms of being accepted? Is it because I want to have a relationship with somebody that's super attractive? Is it that I want to be there to share of myself with another human being and to experience other human beings' life inside of my life? So which is it? And those are two examples of how we extract value. Now, please remember, the second choice self, in its quest to fill the void that something feels missing or to yearn for a different life, it focuses on the value externally from a partner, from a job, from a house, from a car, from having children, from not having children. So, and that value that we extract is towards having a fulfilled life. The car completes me, the partner completes me, are statements that we hear. But a relationship is really just about me wanting to share my life with somebody and to experience what the other person's life is about. And that is the difference between the two. And of course, this continuous wanting value from it, perceived value, because there is no value, means we don't even see the other person. It's an idea that we have and measure the relationship and the other person against that idea. The job we measure against that idea. The car we measure against that idea. And that is to bring value. And then simply put, that value is about, it then means maybe there's nothing wrong with me. Maybe I am worthy. But of course, that's a dynamic that is not possible to fill with anything else. That is a dynamic that we uncover within ourselves. And then from that moment on, instead of taking and extracting value from things and others and children and all the different things that we have grown accustomed to, is then replaced by me living my value and bringing value to whatever I do. So instead of extracting, I bring value. And that is, in a nutshell, interweaving those two examples, Linde, that you presented. Are you comfortable that you now see the difference between the two and how we self-perpetuate that prophecy that everything we do is about extracting value, and we therefore maintain our second choice self neatly, but we are not, because it doesn't exist. It's not possible to bring value, to feel worthy, to feel somebody, to feel I'm not a failure.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that, Emmanuel. So, if we are living this second choice existence, is there other self that's not going to perpetuate this belief of unworthiness or that I'm not good enough. Shall we chat about that a little bit?
Yes, I think we must. And that's also a very nice one, the one that you said now. Please just repeat that one that you said. It's also an example of unworthiness, for instance. You mentioned a beautiful example.
Not feeling good enough.
Yes, that's typically another one. I feel not good enough. I might even
Absolutely.
feel a fake. I might even feel a fake. That's another one. So as I'm living and with the pressure and in a high-paid job or in any job, or I don't find a job, well, let's think about that. If I don't even have a job, how does that feel? Okay, so that was an excellent example, and yes, and let's jump to the other side of it. So, consequent to a second choice self life, let's go and have a look at the first choice of life, and let's have a look and sketch what this looks like. Yes, we found the first choice self life in a book. So let us have a look at that. Seeing the first choice self dynamic, seeing it is the first step towards the beautiful opportunity of treating yourself, of freeing yourself, my bad day, of freeing yourself, but who or what am I freeing myself from? From myself. So I have an opportunity of, or you have the opportunity of freeing yourself from yourself, because this incarceration of me feeling unworthy or that I'm not good enough is something I created, and I keep myself captive in that dynamic. Now here we say seeing first choice self dynamic is the first step towards beautiful opportunity of freeing yourself from yourself. Now that is the first step. We've got to first recognize that dynamic. Then the interesting thing is you are missing from your life. Only you are able to stop it. You are perfect. You are not this unworthiness, not good enough, of failure. Any of that does not exist. It only lives, as I sometimes say, in between our ears. It does not exist. We are, in fact, you are in fact perfect. You need nothing first. Absolutely nothing. You are perfect whether you have a partner, whether you have a car, whether you have a job, whether you have a house. It doesn't matter. You are already perfect. You are full and exist in beauty itself. Don't need to prove. Thank you, Linda. So, of course, you, as a result of that, introduce yourself to your life. The first choice self is able to introduce yourself, myself, to your life, to my life. And then walking away from your fear depicted by factor X. So let me just touch on factor X for anyone who's not heard us talk of factor X. I now use tonight unworthy, failure, nobody. Linda brought a very interesting one. And so all of those different ones where we feel we need to disprove that they're not good enough, as an example of what Linda brought, when I put all of this on paper, and I wrote many, many years ago, and the book's title is Life Can Be Different Conception, I didn't want to continuously repeat unworthy, not good enough, any of these many things because it's mostly unique in every one of us. So thank you, Linda. So there is the book, Life Can Be Different Conception. And in there, when I was writing about this, I said, wait. I need to have a single word and coin phrase of factor X. So when we here at Peace Evolution speak of factor X, it's the collection of either not good enough, unworthy, a nobody, there's no space for me, I'm a failure, all the different things that we mentioned. And we depict that by the single phrase factor X. And suddenly you belong automatically. So let us just read that. You introduce yourself to your life by walking away from your fear depicted by the X. Let's give an example. By walking away from my fear of feeling that I'm a nobody, and suddenly I realized, oh my goodness me, I am part of humanity. There's beauty in me. I am perfect. I don't need to prove anything to anybody at any point in my life, not even to myself. And that is something that happens automatically. It's not a matter that it's different for A or B or Peter or Paul or Mary. Is your first choice self is a life living independently. I'm not dependent on external value. Independently, I am able to be part of a team, a family member, and what happens, I automatically bring my value to whatever that is. And I can give many examples, and the examples are flooding in my mind at the moment. So I'm saying to my mind, okay, wait, stop, no need to give examples. And of course, the outcome of that is that we evolve in a peace. And that is what the first choice self looks like. So in principle, if we now look at humanity and all the things that are happening in humanity, um, the different things that we do, manipulate, abuse, the atrocities that take place, um, anything that we are doing to ourselves and to the rest of humanity, and also to everything, the mountains, the rivers, the sea, all of that, the animal kingdom, all of that is then about creating and perpetuating our second choice self. Whereas when we are living as our first choice self, the outcome is that we then evolve in a peace. And of course, as we live our lives, people who come into contact with us would sense there's something different. They don't know quite what it is, but they would soon realize, but it's okay to be myself. And one of the things we also say here is that you are safe to be true to yourself. And that is at the heart of what we do. It is okay to be true to ourselves. And you are safe in the company of Peace Evolution to be true to yourself. But if you are here with Peace Evolution and you want to, I'm using this term very loosely, you want to stand in your rightness and say, no, but I read this here. I've got this perception. Oh, I understood it like this. I'm following this, whatever it might be. I'm saying, just a moment. If the answer is not coming from your heart, but from some perception, a frame of reference, the standards and norms, then you're not safe to be true to yourself, because you yourself are in that moment not willing to just let go of that and come with what you sense in your life, in your heart, every moment of the day, or the night, or when you sleep, or when you're awake. Okay, so the bottom line is, as we are then evolving in a piece, the outcome, furthermore, is that we automatically benefit through our actions and our behavior, everything and everyone, starting with ourselves, our partners, our colleagues, our family members, our boss, etc., and also everything in the sense of the animal kingdom, the, the plants, the environment, the Amazon, the trees, the sea, the rivers, um, and we are automatically in a mode of taking care of everything. We don't physically need to go there, but what we are living is that it won't be from taking, but rather from bringing our value to whatever we do. Linda, okay, so that is that part, the first choice self. I feel I covered it maybe a little bit more than what we plan to, which means we probably need to watch the time, or we just go on, and maybe we've provided enough time in our allotted live stream slot. So let's have a look at any questions that we've had now with the first choice self, with the second choice self. Are there any questions from anybody? And please ask your questions in the chat. We'd love to hear anything from you.
Amanya, while we wait for questions, perhaps since we spoke about those two examples about a career-driven life and wanting to be in a certain type of relationship, from a first choice existence, just quick example, how would that look?
Okay, thank you, Linda. Very, very interesting. Let's take, and I'm probably going to end up intermingling those two. So first of all, okay, this is a given, whether you want to believe this or not, whether you want to accept this or not. I would then go into a job knowing that the job that I'm there for, I would not be able to live as myself. I would need to leave myself at the front door, because they didn't employ me to be myself. They employed me to do what they want me to do, whatever that might be. So I would be governed by starting at a certain time in the morning, by going home at another time, and having a lunch between this and needing to be in meetings. And the first choice self would recognize that that is how it is, and would not need to question that, and would not feel offended if I need to do this in my job. And this is how interesting and easy that dynamic is. Let us say at any given moment here in my day job, in my conventional job, I am now expected to do this or that. I might have plans which I would have to possibly cancel because, let's say, I'm pushing a deadline. I thought of taking 1 or 2, 3 days off, or going early, going home early, or wanting to do something. But in the job now, for whatever reason, I'm not able to do that. Now, as the second choice self now, I would now feel that I'm done in. As the first choice self, I would realize that at a different level altogether, however, where you want to put that, I made a choice that I needed a job to pay my bills. And I would then, because of that single decision that I made when I took that job and seeing that the job is there only for me to pay the bills, that's really all it is about. I would then have a complete different frame of mind when the company is now expecting things of me that, let's say, constrain me, or that means I need to change some of my plans that I pre-arranged with somebody, or something that I would have preferred to do because I made a decision of a first choice, as a first choice self, that I need a job to pay the bills. I would understand that I'm not there to be me, I'm there to fulfill whatever they want me to fulfill. So that's one thing. The other thing is, if we now look at a relationship, it would be the same thing. So I would have um, a partner that is possibly not at the point of a first choice self life, and I would from that partner have expectations. And I would then see, oh, but wait, now I can get into all sorts of things about these expectations, or I could see, but that is the partner's prerogative to have expectations. And I would understand that I made a decision to be in that relationship, and I sense that that person isn't living their first choice life. And I could now get onto my soapbox and want to profess, but wait. You are living a second choice self life, and you are now wanting something from me that I'm not willing to give, etc., etc., etc. Or the other stance is, okay, I understand where the partner is coming from, I understand the expectations from the partner, and the impact that it would have on me is completely different. And I could see, oh, wait, this is actually something that I could like to now make the step change about this expectation and enjoy it. Or I could say, oh, but that doesn't work for me. Let me give an example. I'm, for instance, a vegetarian, and I'm invited to a meal where it's not about eating vegetables and there are no vegetables. And I could then maybe just take my own food with, or I could just eat what's there that is suitable to my preference of eating. I'm not now going to suddenly eat non veg to please anybody, because there's no need to please anybody. Oh, have some wine with us. But I stopped drinking many years ago, so I'm not going to have wine or anything like that. So I'm not going to, as I was saying now, understand it in a different context. And therefore, I celebrate with my partner whatever she or he is celebrating. And the end result is I don't need to do the things that I don't do. But I now understand the dynamics, and I don't make a thing about it. Or I might just say, look, I've been there with you before. It doesn't work for me. I'm just not going. Thank you very much for the invitation. And then maybe not go. So, Linde, I covered those two dynamics now. Whether it makes sense in how simplistically I'm putting it, but that is really the reality. If I'm not looking to extract value, it doesn't matter if my partner is not living a first choice self life. And I don't need to get on a soapbox every time there's something that doesn't fit me and then want to convert this person into a first choice self life or existence or person, because I understand where that person is, having been there myself. And I would like to just use this example that when I was looking at this dynamic originally, it is like this, and I have used this in our previous discussions. Here's a beautiful rose, and I so badly want this rose to show its beauty. And the time for the rose to show its beauty is not now when I want it, but I am not willing to wait. And so I start forcing open the rosebud. And in that forcing it open, I break the beauty of the rose automatically. If I understood the dynamic, I would let that rose bud blossom in its own time.
That's a really beautiful analogy. Thank you, Emmanuel.
You're welcome and thank you.
Right, so we had quite a beautiful overview of the second choice self and a first choice self existence. So yes, let's go back and have a look at the self-fulfilling prophecy and why we perpetuate this belief that we are unworthy or not good enough or whatever the case may be. Right.
Okay, so let's look at those harsh words that we put out there. You are self-sabotaging and ensuring your belief that you are unworthy. The more you want to prove it, the more you are self-sabotaging. I want to use a simple, different example to the one about the rose now. Let us say I want to grab water in a stream. I want to grab it like this. I want to grab it. I want to grab it. It's not going to happen. But if I just cup my hand and I hold it in the water, and I just in my cupped hand hold it in the water, there's a very good chance that the water falls into my cupped hand and I am then able to drink the water. So using a cupped hand as opposed to grabbing uh, gives me an opportunity where in the calmness of understanding, I use my cupped hand. I then get water from the stream and I'm able to drink it. But grabbing is not going to help. It's the same thing here, that we don't need to self-sabotage by grabbing the water. Let's just hold our cupped hand and we are able to get water. Okay, so that is self-sabotaging and ensuring, and this is part of the self-fulfilling prophecy. And of course, as part of this self-fulfilling prophecy, we are also afraid of being ostracized. So if I behave in this different way, and I would like to just give an example. I used to be invited to so many do's. Come to lunch with us, come and do this with us, come and do that with us. And even in my family situation, um, come on, Emmanuel, we're inviting you to come and do this, or we're inviting you to come and do that. And because of my chosen path, I would rather do something in terms of living my first choice self and not necessarily wanting to take up any of the invitations. And that has become a part of my behavior, that has become a part of my life. So instead of being afraid of being ostracized, instead you ostracize yourself from yourself in your second choice self. So if we look at that in my example of being invited, now I go to things which I would rather not go to. And therefore I'm ostracizing myself. So my second choice self is ostracizing me from my first choice self. And that is all part of the self-fulfilling prophecy. While I do those things that I would rather not do, I'm ostracizing myself from myself. Now, there is also the dynamic of not rejecting, not accepting. It's okay to stop rejecting. So let's have a look at this dynamic now. We are usually rejecting our first choice self, meaning I'm invited to do something, I need to do something, whatever the case might be, where I go against what I would rather do. I am then, of course, rejecting my first choice self. Now, once I start seeing the dynamic of the first choice self, as a result of that, so I need to just stop here for a moment. Are you comfortable with the principle, if I see this dynamic, that I'm living a second choice self life because I want to prove something, versus the first choice self where I don't need to prove anything, I am just being me, and that anything that I do where the second choice self is getting the upper hand on me and I self-sustain that self-fulfilling prophecy. I'm using tongue twisters here. That means then I am in fact rejecting my first choice self. And look at the dynamic of what we say there. We are not accepting it's okay to stop rejecting. So if we look at it, we don't need to reject our second choice, our first choice self. We don't need to reject our first choice self. And of course, the dynamic that we say here, not accepting it's okay. If we accept that we don't need to reject our first choice self, that is part of it. But if we accept it's not okay, we won't stop rejecting our second choice self. So let's just read that. Not accepting it's okay to stop rejecting the first choice self. We are saying we don't accept that it's okay to stop rejecting ourselves. So we are not accepting it's okay. Therefore, we self-perpetuate our belief of needing to prove something. If we take it a step further, we exchange living, so let me read there, exchange living your first choice self to be accepted. So I get invited to something which I'd rather not do. And please remember, I'm using simple examples to be able to talk about it. So I get invited to something that I would prefer not to do. And as it says there, exchanging living a first choice self to be accepted. So I go to be accepted, but what I really did is I exchanged the living of my first choice self to be accepted. So that's another way of self-fulfilling the prophecy of the second choice self. These are tongue twisters, Linda, complete tongue twisters. And if we now take this a step further, yet again, in turn, you are not accepting yourself. So that's simplistic. So we're saying you are not accepting yourself. So this, all the statements going above that, the bottom line is not accepting myself. And consequently, the self-perpetuating, the feeling of yearning for a different life. So let us take a look. Back in the day when my journey started, I used different words, but the principle was, I said, the way that I'm living and the way I see people around me living, it's really not for me. It doesn't seem to have meaning. I can't wake up every morning, get ready, go to work, get an income. Tomorrow I start again with the same thing. And that, to me, in the words that I use today, is like running on a hamster wheel. And I wanted something different. Later on in life, I realized, but the more I was living the second choice self, the more I was yearning for a different life, the more something felt missing. So as we are self-perpetuating, we are then feeding the feeling of yearning for a different life. And there also the statement just below it, the feeling that something is missing. So look at it like this. If I'm not being me, and I'm feeding the principle of a second choice self life, first of all, I would be yearning for a different life. I would also feel something is missing. And that yearning for a different life without knowing it, please, this is tricky to understand. Without knowing it, that yearning for a different life is the yearning of me being in my life. Not this wanting to disprove factor X, that feeling that I have that something is missing is again, I am missing in my life. So all the things that we do is while we are feeding the needs of the second choice self, that belief, while I'm doing that, I'm self-perpetuating the yearning for a different life. I'm self-perpetuating the feeling that something is missing. Okay, thank you, Linda. And if we look at that one, what we say there is living your life driven by a figment of your imagination to fit in, to be accepted. So the figment of my imagination is that I'm not worthy, as an example, and I then live completely being driven by that figment of my imagination, and that's to fit in, to be accepted. But if that is not factual, if that is a figment of my imagination, if I am already perfect, if I am already beautiful, it means that all of these things that I'm doing is keeping me away from me. So I want to say, yes, Linda, you've got a question.
Yes, Emmanuel. Would it be fair to say that This figment of our imagination is probably something that happened, or this belief that we took on probably from an early age already. Would you say that's when it happened?
Linda, I would say that it's more likely, I would answer this, and I would say that it's different for everybody, and that I would say we would each be able to figure out exactly where it was born. And if you recall, one of the objectives that we address in the course that we are busy developing, it is about seeing exactly how we gave birth to it. Now, that could be at the age of 2, that could be at any age. It's not important what the age is, but usually it would be at an early age.
Okay.
Usually it would be at an early age.
100%. Thank you.
Yeah, in my own life, I worked it back to where I think the last straw that broke the camel's back. I really don't like using that particular example, but it spells it out so nicely. Was when I was probably, uh, I'm, I'm, I'm guessing here 7 or 8. I see it in my mind's eye exactly when and how it happened. Exactly. And I walked away from that saying, surely, how could this have happened? It must mean there's something wrong with me.
Do you mind sharing with our viewers what your experience was, Emmanuel?
Okay. So there are a few dynamics in the story. Thank you, Linda. There are a few dynamics.
Okay.
Do I need to keep it short or my regular length of storytelling?
You may go into your storytelling.
Okay. So please keep in mind, Emmanuel is the type of person that wants to solve things. So no matter what, at a very early age, we were as a family now, that is, if I remember correctly, something like 12 or 14 people. It was mother, it was father, it was siblings, and the children of the siblings. And we all peer very close to where you stay in Somerset Strand or in one of the beaches close by where there's a jetty. Um, I'm guessing 6, 7, or 8. It could have been 5. I really don't remember the exact age. And what happened was we went to the, the beach and we were all looking for fish eggs. In other words, where fishermen had caught fish and they were now gutting the fish, and then we were looking for the fish eggs. Now, I was old enough to get that, so I wasn't a toddler. And what happened was we just couldn't find. We went here, we went here, we went out on the jetty wherever people were fishing, and we couldn't find these fish eggs. And I then said, oh, I'm going to look for it. But nobody, in the busyness, imagine now all of us, mother, father, siblings, children, are all walking together in a group. I think, as I was saying now 10, 12, 14 people. And I said, okay, I'm going to go and find this. And I looked and I went here and I went there and I went everywhere and I found. And so I put it in my hand and I had the fish eggs in my hand, quite a lot. And I now looked around, where's my family? But there's nobody there. There's absolutely nobody there. And now I have no idea where my family is. So I go and look here. That probably went everywhere, but I couldn't find them. And now I thought to myself, but I was also young enough to not know exactly where we lived because we were visiting, but I scraped the courage together to sort of get the direction of where we were, where we came from, and I sort of backtracked, walking up and down the streets until I eventually found the house. And of course, by now, all along as I was working, I'm crying my heart out, thinking, surely there's got to be something wrong with me if my whole family could just forget about me and leave me there. So that was what was going on in my mind. They probably thought, now, where did this guy disappear to? We can't stand here waiting for him. We have no idea where he was. I also had a bit of a mind of my own in those, always, but in those days also. So now I'm walking with the fish eggs in my hand all over the show till I eventually get there. And then everybody says, oh, we didn't even notice you weren't here. And I was crying my heart out. And in my introspection, that was the last straw, Linda. That was the one that said to me, surely I can't, there has to be something wrong with me. So that has got a few of the dynamics of my personality in it, the wanting to go and find it, the not giving up. And then I found it, and now I'm left on the beach. Nobody's there to be seen. And that's how it started for me.
Okay, so in that moment, you basically took on the belief that you're not good enough or that there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, yeah.
And then from there, what you now recognize is that you started, everything that you did was to disprove this belief that you're not good enough. Or, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah. And you can see from that story, it is so far removed from the fact there's nothing wrong with me. It's just the dynamics of that time, the many, many people, and now you can say, oh, I'm just polishing it. No, 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 I'm not polishing it. What I'm exemplifying here is the dynamic in my mind was I'm not good enough. But that was not the reality. Not at all. Was that an
Okay.
interesting story, Linda?
Yes, it was. Thanks for sharing, Emmanuel.
Okay.
Right, let's continue. Okay, so there was a figment of our imagination.
Okay. And so when we now look at that statement there, self-caring is missing. I'm far more interested in proving or disproving this figment of my imagination. So self-caring is missing. And instead I'm holding on to the fear of making mistakes. I'm afraid to make mistakes. And in that, I'm just not there. I'm not caring about me. In fact, I'm not caring about anything or anybody. I would even lie. I would even steal. Okay. So those are the dynamics. Linda, have we looked at all of them?
Not yet.
Okay, let's go to the next one.
Okay.
Or yeah, let me before you. Okay, no worries. So the thing is, let me just elaborate on that holding on to the fear of making mistakes. So the environment that now, please remember, I'm working on a basis that what I'm saying, there's a 1% chance that what I'm saying is also the same for everyone. And the world that we have created for each and every one of us forming humanity is that making a mistake is just no good. It's not on. It's not part of our culture. We should not make mistakes. We should just not at all let up, drop our facade. We need to keep that facade going. And of course, that elicits in us, um, and it and we hold on to the fear that it's no good to make mistakes. It's not acceptable to make mistakes. We need to just get everything right the first time. And I can go into that forever. There's also that we even are afraid to deliver something. We are even afraid to show somebody something that we made because there might be mistakes and they might recognize the mistakes. So as we show something we to somebody, we are already making excuses. Oh, here I did this. Oh, here I did that. Instead of just accepting the beauty of what we made, whether there are mistakes in it or not. Okay, so then let me go to the next point. Thank you, Linde. And that is, this is another interesting dynamic. While we are in this mode of perpetuating, of course, you or I don't benefit while I'm in that mode. In fact, no one benefits. In fact, no thing benefits because we are wanting to derive value from it. Whereas the first choice self life is about living our value, and we are depriving ourselves from that. Okay, so that's the point of no one benefiting. Instead, now this is also harsh words. Therefore, I'm not myself. I'm a product of my circumstances. I am living a life where I'm missing. I'm living a life where I continuously want to prove something. And of course, the, the environment, the circumstances is then really the creation of me, instead of me being the creation of me. Okay. That also means I have no say in my life. I think that at the office, in a day job, and I'm just using this as an example, or in my relationship, I am going to insist and even make it unpleasant. And the outcome is I'm fulfilling that fear, and it's not possible. And consequent to that, um, I don't have a say in my life. My fear has a say in my life. So people say, oh, but it's my life. But it's not. If you're living as a second choice self, you are not living your life. Your fear is living your life for you. And as a consequence, um, Nobody's really driving your life. You are not driving your life. Your fear of being a nobody drives your life. So if I use this example, my fear of factor X is driving my life. My fear of not being good enough is driving my life instead of me driving my life. Thank you, Linda. Here we are. So consequently, so this is an easy dynamic, but also tricky. When we look there, you are unable to make the step change while you're in that mode. So please remember, when I'm preoccupied with this self-fulfilling prophecy of wanting to prove that there's nothing wrong with me, I'm unable to make the step change, and the step change is to the first choice self. Now, as a result of that, I also feel, but wait, if that's the case, if my fear, and this is something very beautiful, Linda, I think we should stand on this for a bit. I'm unable to make the step change, and I feel that my whole life up to now was, of course, wasted. If I was living the second choice self life, this wanting to disprove, this figment of my imagination, another way how I self perpetuate is I feel that my life was this thus just wasted. Now, let us say that's the furthest thing from the truth. Let me explain why I say that. That's the furthest away from the possibility that my life was wasted. I would like to just use my own life as an example. In my introspection journey, it became evident that what I wanted to bring, now please remember, I'm now removing my second choice self life. I'm daydreaming my first choice life. And please remember, those dynamics, I was not aware that those dynamics were at play. I was not aware of it. It was only in as I was introspecting years and years later that I realized, okay, with my observations of my life, in other words, living my life and watching me living my life as a movie, the script of that movie was that every now and then I had daydreams, and the daydreams all had the same flavor. And in one of our discussions, I spoke about the farm daydream. Now, the undercurrent of the farm daydream is it was my wish, and it is now my vision as I uncovered the undercurrent of my daydream. I realized what I would like as part of my life is to assist and facilitate anyone who is living a second choice self, and they would like to uncover the basis of their first choice self and to get a glimpse of it. And once they get a glimpse of it, they would craft a vision for their life. So please remember now, as a second choice self, it's all about disproving, self perpetuating, as I have now ad nauseum given examples of. Now, what does the first choice self look like? And the first choice self, in principle, is I am the source of my life as a principle. I also have a purpose, and that purpose is self-chosen, and consequent to that, what would that life look like? And I realized that I depicted that, what it would look like, in the form of a vision. In other words, what I saw in my mind's eye, I wrote down in words. I refer to that as my vision. Now, my vision says that if everyone is living their vision, then I feel then we would have an evolved inner peace. And from my own first-hand experience, instead of me seeing my life as wasted, I have first-hand lived experience to convey this message that we are conveying here now. And I also have first-hand lived experience in supporting anyone who would like to see what their first choice self life looks like, to get a glimpse of that, to recognize what their life is really about, severed from the split of taking on the second choice self. Now, Linda, you better tell me. I said many things in few words now. Do you have anything that you want me to clarify on?
No, thank you very much, Emmanuel. I just want to mention to our viewers, we've added a link to the course that Emmanuel was speaking about, and to assist you in facilitating that transition from the second choice self to the first choice self. And we also have Emmanuel's ebook available, and we'll add that link as well to assist with that.
Okay, Linda, thank you very much for those reminders. Do you feel that I should elaborate about this point about if my second choice self was governing my life, I got to keep that going, because otherwise it means my life meant nothing. But yet it's not. It gives us first-hand lived experience, which we can't get anywhere. We can't buy it. We've dedicated our lives to gain first-hand lived experience. Now let's tap into that and use that first-hand experience to live our first choice self-life.
Absolutely.
And is that beautiful or just a crazy person speaking?
No, love it. Love it.
Okay. Thank you, Linda.
Right. Let me see where we're at.
Okay, so there's more to go. Hold on to your Alice bands. Hold on to your jeans. Hold on to your skirt. Let's see. Okay. On the contrary, you have lived experience and first-hand experience. So your life is truly not wasted. Your life has so much to offer. You have so much to offer. You have first-hand experience. And that different life that we yearn for, and that feeling that something is missing, is then quite possibly from the experience that you gained, the life experience that you gained. Instead of saying, ooh, I can't make the step change, I shouldn't make the step change. To the contrary, You have lived experience. Thank you, Linda. Let's go to the next one. Okay. Now, of course, I could certainly go on and on and on and on and on. So we listed a few points here. The list is certainly not exhaustive. And let's see what anybody wants to ask or comment.
Doesn't look like we have any comments at this moment, Emmanuel. I did share all those links, so we can maybe just end off with a bit of a summary.
Okay. So are you going to give that summary, or shall I give that summary?
No, you go ahead.
Okay. So when we look at this image now, this self-fulfilling prophecy is what, Linda, could you just scroll it up a little bit, or make the image a little bit smaller? Now a little bit bigger, please. Just a little, okay, there we are. Okay. So the idea and the context of our discussion here is, you've got the second choice self, there is the first choice self. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, how we maintain those two different dynamics. And the points that I mentioned here in the middle that we went through, if we sum it up at a high level, that is what the second choice self is up against. So if you say, oh, but wait, peace evolution, I'd love to get to know my first choice self, you might even take our course. You might even be in more of these discussions, in our Q&A discussions, where you have the opportunity to ask questions, and that the whole discussion is about the questions and answers. Now, you are going to be faced day to day, moment by moment, with all the different things we mentioned in that list in the middle that you are up against when you want to make that step change, when you want to transition. Those are some of the things at a very, very high level. And the topic is, that's how we self-perpetuate, keeping us locked in to our belief of being unworthy. That's the summary.
Yes, great. Thank you, Emmanuel. That was a very thought-provoking, and thank you for simplifying it for us and sharing your interesting stories, as always. I don't see any other questions or comments from our viewers. So I would like to thank everybody for joining us with this live stream. And we'll see you next time.
Okay, thank you, everyone. And thank you, Linda, for presenting the discussion and taking me slowly and methodically through the topics that we were discussing, for our viewers to be able to see it, and then that we also showed each point as we were talking in the bottom of this, at the bottom of the screen. Thank you very, very much for doing that.
100%. If anybody is watching the replay of this, please comment, Tell us what you think, whether Emmanuel is crazy or not. Anything. We would love your feedback. Please subscribe to our channel and share if you found value in this. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so
And
much, everybody.
And Linda, let's shout out to Marley. Thank you. Thank you, Marley.
Yes, shout out to Marley. Thank you again for your contribution. Really appreciate it. Okay. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.